Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome back to Season 2 and Episode 30 of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up. Now, we have finally had a few days between our episodes, that is, and we are grateful for it.
And you should be equally grateful that I'm no longer hopped up on cold meds, by the way.
We are. We all are. And the world rejoices.
Oh, and so they should. Folks, it's time to pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sara Brown, Shield Maiden of Rohan.
And I'm James Tauber, the Sage of the South. And we're both here with Alan Sisto, the Man of the West.
And tonight we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 5 of Amazon Prime Video's television series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And we are dedicating this episode to the brave and gone far too soon, Valandil.
Alas, poor Valandil. But before we get started, we want to offer a warm welcome for those of you joining us for the first time. Here at the Rings of Power Wrap-Up, we talk about the characters, story, and the lore behind the Rings of Power.
And of course, we're going to be diving into some of Tolkien's biggest themes as well, some of which we finally saw in this episode, like mortality and free will and fellowship and all of this good stuff, and greed. And of course, we're going to do more than our fair share of speculating.
We hope you'll learn something new about Tolkien every time you listen, and we hope you'll have a few laughs in the process. We're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. Right, before we get into the episode discussion, do we have any corrections to make?
Oh, we most certainly do. I misspoke quite badly when I said that Galadriel, we were talking about Galadriel's healing powers and the sort of the enhancement that the rings give. I said that she was of the line of Luthien, which first, I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I do, and I'll get to that. But also, second, before I throw myself fully under the bus, I just got to be like, did you guys just totally gloss over that line? I mean, that's what you're here for.
I thought you said she was in the same line.
There you go. And that is kind of what I meant. Because
And I'm just blaming the cold meds.
That's fair.
It.
You have an excuse,
that's totally
Sarah,
fair. Yeah, you are excused. Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. Galadriel, obviously not of the biological genetic line of Luthien. She is a century or two younger, actually. I didn't know that, but she is. I looked that up. Galadriel is, of course, the daughter of Finarfin, the prince of the Noldor, and his wife, Eärwen, who was a princess of the Teleri. But I think what I was thinking at the time was more along the lines of Galadriel learning her healing skills and being sort of like a Luthien in that sense, because she would have learned a lot of those skills from Melian the Maya when Galadriel was in Doriath. But she is not, of course, actually related. So, mea culpa.
We also wanted to clarify something we said about trolls, not Damrod, regarding the issue of orc reproduction. Now, we weren't saying that anyone who took issue with that portrayal is in fact a troll.
Right.
Plenty of people know that orcs reproduce sexually, but might disagree specifically with the image of a loving orc father concerned for his child. That's a completely reasonable position. What we meant was that particular scene was the one that a lot of the internet trolls have really seemed to latch onto.
Correct. Yeah. So we weren't trying to paint with a broad brush, folks. We were just pointing out this was the one that drew all the attention of those people. Yeah.
Indeed. I think that's it for our corrections.
I think so. I think. Does anybody have anything else? No, we're good? All right.
I don't think so. So, Alan, can you get us started?
I can. We started with Khazad-dûm, with King Durin picking a ring of power. I'm curious why he chose that particular one, but he chose that one particular one from the little circle of rings. And immediately we start to hear voices.
I think he chose it because I think it set off his eyes, his blue eyes
yes.
really well.
Oh,
that's why he chose it.
His eyes, which you can hardly see because they're just these tiny little slits behind all this hair and crown.
Eyes,
It goes with any outfit, really, doesn't it?
It does. That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, you asked her.
Have you also noticed how all these people magically, wonderfully have a finger free of jewelry that they can put that ring onto?
And typically just the one. I mean, Gil-galad was covered in them. And Durin as well. You're right. That's a very good point. Everybody's got lots of rings. Rings of power, on the other hand, very rare.
Well, they liked it, so they went and put a ring on it.
Oh, no.
I almost used that as a scene name on the Rings of Power data website. I almost said Durin puts a ring on it.
I gift it to you, James. I am nothing if not generous.
Now, James, I know you look at the subtitle files. You do a really good job with that. We got to put a link in the show notes to your project on that. So were the words that we hear Durin hearing in the background, were those transcribed at all for us?
They were not, but we do get the description, disembodied voices whispering.
Okay, that's fair. Good enough. Well, they obviously whisper some pretty powerful directions because he immediately gains this ability. I mean, like instantaneously to know where to dig in order to basically rescue Khazad-dûm. And we've talked about this last episode. That's what's going on here. It seems like Sauron is creating a need and then creating the thing to fulfill that need.
Exactly, just like we saw with the elves.
Yeah.
So one thing I really liked about that, I was worried at first that they were going to extend the healing and preservative impact of the rings to the seven.
Right.
I was really hoping that they weren't going to all of a sudden use the seven to heal the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
But fortunately, it turned out not to be that at all. What they seem to be doing is just letting, well, as King Durin himself says, see the mountain. They're enhancing his perception rather than doing any healing of themselves.
Right. And that's good because we will see also that the Dwarven rings act differently in terms of the other side effects too, which are, at least in that respect, very lore accurate. So the Stone Singers, by the way, did you notice that when he does bring the sun back and like Moria's thrilled, you know, the Khazad-dûm, which is a really fun little cheer. The Stone Singers don't seem very happy. Anything to make of that?
Yeah, I noticed that too. And I wonder if it's tied to Disa's deep-seated concern about what is happening with the mountain, with the king, with the fact that the stone singing doesn't seem to be working, but now suddenly magically, use that word sort of cautiously, the king is somehow able to tap into something that she isn't able to tap into.
Yeah.
And you can really feel her concern with that. And of course, we get that.
Yeah, we see it.
We
later.
get that much more clearly when she talks to Durin Jr. later on.
Yeah. I was just going to bring up that point that it's interesting that her problem seems to be that she has spent so long developing the skill.
Yeah,
and she considers it almost cheating.
Yeah, she actually says that, doesn't she? It's like cheating. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting, and we can talk about this more when we get to it maybe, but it really touches on that theme of technology being used for control rather than creation.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful, I was thinking of there's a wonderful documentary where Christopher Tolkien is interviewed, and he talks about that contrast of when the problem is not the machine so much as the machine when it's used for control.
Yes.
And that's the fundamental issue.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought of that this is a bit of technology that in and of itself might be okay, except that it leads to coercion.
Yeah.
And
that's
control.
very Tolkienian. I mean, that
Exactly.
The whole idea of the themes of the story are the fall and death, mortality, and the machine. Which is magic, from Tolkien's perspective. That's how he phrases magic, right? He kind of describes it as the machine, as this sort of artificial means of accomplishing something.
Absolutely. And when you combine that with Disa's disgust, really, I'm going to use that word.
Oh, yeah.
That a skill that she has honed over so many years, a gift, as she says, from Aule, a skill that she has worked on so that she has become one of the best stone singers.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's usurped by this, as James called it, technology. How very 21st century, actually, as a comment.
It is funny, though, by the way, just on the names thing, right? The dwarves would be calling him Mahal. But, I mean, I know I'm getting a little pedantic there. They wouldn't be speaking a Quenya name, but...
They wouldn't be speaking English either.
Well, no, that's true. But they certainly wouldn't refer to him.
If we're going to go down that path.
That's a very good point. They would all be speaking Kuzdul in there, not Westron. All right. So Durin, of course, he's at this point, at least, he's not as skeptical as Disa. He's more like, well, he's a king. He knows how to wield power. So we're fine. Now, again, like we always do, we're sticking with the Khazad-dûm theme, even though the scene cuts and we come back at a later point. But they're shopping for some home decor, right? They're just down at the local IKEA. And
they're buying a present.
They're buying a present, actually. You're right. A birthday present for their daughter.
Birthday present for the girl. Yep.
And it's a tuning stone. Do we know what a tuning stone is? No. Do we need to? I suppose we don't.
Well, I had thoughts on that. I actually did have thoughts on the tuning stone. After all, when Disa is singing to the stone, then what she seems to be doing is resonating with the frequencies of each stone. And to practice that, maybe there are things that she has used to help her to attain particular frequencies or resonances.
And maybe stone singers are a hereditary role. And she's,
Yep.
I like that, actually. I like that a lot. The idea of it being something that she's teaching her daughter.
That's what I thought. Anyway.
I buy that. 100% I can buy that.
Interestingly, the merchant who sells it is described in the X-ray as geode dwarf.
Geode dwarf. I like that. What does he do? He sells geodes. All right. But he also sells geodes with a new tax. A 100% sales tax.
And the name of it as well.
Oh, the ring tribute. It's a little on the nose, but it does give the point across, doesn't it?
It does. That's a little scary.
Yeah, you immediately start realizing that Durin is succumbing to the greed that we know from the lore is the result of the rings. We see with men that they have a lure to power, that every one of the 9 becomes, these mighty kings and sorcerers of old, as the text says. And with the elves, it's their tendency to preserve or embalm, if you want to use one of Tolkien's words from the letters. But with the dwarves, the rings enhance their greed. And boy, will we see that as a theme throughout the rest of the episode. So
indeed. And I just want to say here, one of the things I really enjoyed about this entire episode is that the showrunners have started to address some of those core questions. And here is that one about the dwarves, where this sort of maybe a natural propensity towards desire for the things of the rock, if you like, including silver, gold, mithril, jewelry, whatever. That the rings enhance that they make it stronger. They focus that. This is one of the main things with the dwarven rings, as you were just saying, Alan, and the fact that they are now addressing these problems, these issues. I'm so happy to see them doing this, and I thought they did it really well. Yes, it's compressed in terms of time and pacing, right? Because you put the ring on and instantly.
Yeah, well, when you have an 8-episode season, it's what
you can understand why they've had to do that, because they've only got so much time in which to actually show that the rings will have this effect.
One might argue that's because they have too many storylines to follow, but we'll get to that.
Yes, well, that's a whole other issue, isn't it? But I just want to say yay for the fact that they are addressing some of these important points, and we'll get to all the other important points that they are finally, fantastic.
Yes, so many.
They are addressing.
So
I think that's what made this episode so enjoyable for me was that there were a number of things where we've commented before in previous episodes. We're kind of like, when are they going to get to X? Because it's really, they're running out of time. They need to introduce X soon. Otherwise they're not going to have enough time. And as we're going to discuss, as you alluded to, Sarah, there were multiple instances of those that we get in this episode. I finally feel like we're getting the plot progressing. We're getting these major themes introduced.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, maybe a little rushed, but I was okay with that. I think they've introduced them really well. I'm just so delighted to see them.
Yeah, same here.
The dwarf greed is a big part of that.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it was nice to watch the episode and feel that level of excitement building inside me that I hadn't felt. I mean, I really didn't feel it for episode 4, and I don't think it was anything to do with the fact that I was completely up to my eyeballs in cold meds. This just is a better episode.
Yeah,
it is a better episode for me.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say it's my favorite episode of the show so far across both seasons.
Yeah, you know what? I might actually agree with you on that one as well. There was so much in there that was lore specific that really starts to extend the story in the areas that we want them to extend that story into.
Yeah.
Moments of high drama and excitement. All of that was there.
Some brilliant writing, some phenomenal acting.
I was just so happy.
I mean, we're still going to have our gripes, of course. We're still going to have our little quibbles. I know I have some little things, but I think it's certainly my favorite of this season. I almost have to rewatch all of season 1 again, but I think you're right, James. This may very well be the best episode of the show so far. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing it lacked, and this is not a criticism, it's just the nature of where it is in the sequence. We didn't get introduced to anything particularly new in terms of locations or anything like that. But that might have been why they were able to focus so much more on the lore and so on.
And I think that may be what makes it a better episode, because they weren't trying to throw more things into the pot. They were able to go deeper on each of these major threads without having to introduce new things. And that enabled them to finally really access those themes that we've been talking about, in this case, the dwarven greed, but we'll talk later about the mortality of men and all of these things that are, central to the story of the Second Age. They're finally starting to bring up, and I'm really pleased to see that.
One of the things I noticed doing the subtitles is this is the first episode where there were no new speakers introduced, named speaking characters. That's zero
big.
new name speaking characters.
That is big. Yeah.
Oh, that really links in with what you were just saying then, Alan, that with not introducing new stuff, they've got the space and the time to really dig deeper on the stuff they've already introduced.
That totally explains why we like this. Yes.
I think so. Yep.
Speaking of dwarven greed, Geode Dwarf doesn't include a box with the sale of the Tombs of Rock.
That's a bit unfortunate given what happens next.
It is. I mean, because this whole next thing is salvaged if he just gives her a box. But she drops this round thing, which is apparently so perfectly round that it doesn't even stop rolling. It just keeps rolling. I will comment, why are we building the marketplace so close to some terrifying chasm and lake at the bottom of the cave? But, maybe it actually fell for 3 days and she had to, hunt for it,
Hey, look, if you just spent 200, whatever it was, or 150, you'd run after it too.
Oh, you definitely would. But she ends up in this deep cavern. And we were talking, James and I, just before you were able to join us and we started recording, Sara. Is this supposed to be a visual callback or homage to the lake at the bottom of Moria? When
I thought so.
And the Balrog? Yeah, I did. We all, that's the thing.
Oh, yeah. It was another Jackson tribute moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
It kind of bugged me a little bit because, of course, that's supposed to be at the very
Not a Ring tribute, a Peter Jackson tribute.
100% tax. I mean, that lake is at the very, very bottom. I mean, Gandalf and the Balrog were said to have fallen for a very, very long time. I don't remember that it was actually described as any particular period of time. And I will say Jackson did a great job of showing that in the film. The scale of that massive empty space really was conveyed. And here it's just, is this that same lake? Wow, you guys built that marketplace really deep.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't, maybe you want to relocate.
That deep.
That's true. Who knows? But that was an interesting little nod again. But then, of course, even after finding it, she breaks it when she hears something. We're not given a reveal of the Balrog, are we? We're just given something.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I'm okay with the fact that the Balrog is not revealed right then.
Yeah.
Because we still want to get that sense of nameless evil that's down there. Because if Disa was able to run up to tell her husband, oh, by the way, this is what I saw.
Yeah, there's a Balrog. Yeah.
There's a Balrog. I think that at that point, all of the mystery goes out and it's more likely that he would be able to persuade other people that there's a Balrog.
Yeah. Well, I think we're literally waiting for the scene where King Durin taps a stone with an axe, pops into a chamber, and there's the Balrog. I mean, we want that reveal.
Looking at him.
And then that's going to be,
You woke me up, my dude. Bad idea.
I was having a really good nap till you showed up. Now, speaking of King Durin, when we come back to the Khazad-dûm thread, at this point, he's brought together representatives of the other dwarven realms. He's talking about this new age for dwarven kind. We can do these amazing things with the help of the power of the rings. And you can tell your tell your bosses, go home and tell your bosses, they too can have this power for a price. Once again, that dwarven greed comes in. It's well done. I want to see more about these other dwarves, though. I know we're probably not going to, but man, I want to know all these other clans, how we got them there, because there are 7 houses of the dwarves, and they are scattered for sure.
I'm sorry to say I doubt we're going to find out.
I doubt we will
much
either.
More.
I know.
Yeah.
My brain keeps going to Lord of the Rings Online and how we do get to see so many different
really built
dwarven
out
houses.
all of that.
They
that
really,
aspect,
really did. But that's the advantage of being able to do this in an MMO game where you've got hundreds and hundreds of hours that you can sink into gameplay.
Yeah. It's a pity, but I think if they start introducing us to the dwarves of the Iron Hills, etc., it's just going to be yet another place, yet another set of peoples.
Yes, we can't do it.
And I honestly don't think they're going to do that. It's just, we're going to have that idea that there are now 7 houses of the dwarves and they're all taken over by the power of their own rings.
And every one of their hordes will be built upon a dwarven ring of power.
They've illustrated that point very efficiently. I think they've done a good job.
Efficiently is a very good way of putting it. You're right. 100%.
Which is good because we don't want to be distracted by yet another plot line and location.
No, we really don't. I mean, it's the same reason. I know, like, I'm totally digressing here, but like, why didn't Glorfindel, show up in the Jackson films? Why was it Arwen? Well, because why are we going to introduce this mighty elven lord who we're never going to see in the rest of the story?
Right. He just pops up, glows briefly, does this, and then goes again.
Exactly. And Erkenbrand. I'm always sad that they don't include Erkenbrand in any adaptation because it's him, not Aemir, that shows up. But, we can't be introducing characters all the time in a visual media. It's just not going to work for telling that story. This is,
Although I do think they might have missed out on some merchandising opportunities. Can you imagine a Glorfindel lamp? Glows in the dark.
Oh, I know. Hey, it's the Glorfindel on the other side lamp. You turn off the lamp, he doesn't glow, but you put the ring on by turning on the light. And I like that. All right. So now we cut to yet another example of dwarven greed, right? We come back and King Durin is having a chat with Narvi, who's the delve master, as we talked about last episode. He wants some restrictions on these deep delvings to be lifted. And in the middle of that conversation, he has a very Bilbo moment, doesn't he?
When he all of a sudden is concerned, where is the ring?
Yeah.
I lost it? Yes.
Where is the ring? Did you take my ring? Did you steal my ring?
Yeah, it very quickly escalates to anger, which again is a very Bilbo, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was pretty effective, actually.
Yeah, that was one of the homages that was well done, I thought.
Yeah, and the fact that he'd taken the ring off because his hand felt heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was actually really well done.
I did as well. But of course, he does end up giving instructions to Narvi to begin digging. So there we go. There is our, sort of foreshadowing of the discovery of the Balrog and the waking of the Balrog. Because that's when Durin shows up, Prince Durin, the younger, shows up with news that there is something under the mines, right? I mean, we've got a problem. Disa has discovered that there's something down there. And even though he doesn't tell us, I'm pretty sure it's Balrog shaped with shadowy wings. But it is a nameless evil, ancient and powerful. Okay. It's not going to be the Watcher in the Water, but I wonder if we're going to get him too sometime.
Maybe.
That would be interesting. Like, how does the Watcher in the Water end up there? Why is the Watcher in the Water there? What is he watching?
Always had that question. Right. What is he watching?
Previous episodes of Rings of Power.
Yeah, exactly. So we have that really interesting, tense moment with the king telling Narvi, you've got your orders, and the prince being like, dude, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Now he leaves. I don't know that Narvi's necessarily going to carry out these orders, or he's going to, slow foot it. He's going to really try to drag this out because he knows there's some risk involved. But the king tells him there is no risk, right? What does he say? There is no danger. The ring is giving me this ability to see through the mountain itself. I love that phrase. We've basically touched a thimbleful of our wealth in this mountain. That is, again, dwarven greed, and it's really well done.
It is, yeah. The fact that he sets aside Disa's skills, knowledge, and understanding of the mountain.
And gift from Ale, as you've mentioned earlier, which was a really good point. Yeah. So we come back one more time to Khazad-dûm, and again, just going through each thread individually, we've gotten that talk with Annatar and Celebrimbor about the deceit that has impacted the dwarven rings, and we'll get to that deceit conversation. But we cut to the Durins, and this is where Prince Durin is telling his father, look, we've got to stop using them. Some devilry has gotten into them. There was a nice little word there. Again, a little bit throwback to Khazad-dûm in the films. What new devilry is this? King Durin, though, is trying to deflect, isn't he? He immediately shifts the conversation. Oh, I'm so proud of you, son. I'm so proud. Forget about that. I'm not even going to respond to your concern about deceit and devilry. I'm just so glad that you decided to work with the elves, and you are absolutely right. And I need you by my side. He gives him back the airship.
Doesn't that feel a bit manipulative?
Utterly.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you could see it in his face when he comes back to talk to Disa after that scene. He comes back. He's like, I tried.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was almost embarrassed that it was around his neck.
Yeah. You could see he was almost like ashamed. Oh, it was hurtful. And Disa, the look of disappointment in her face is, but yeah, I do like at least that she's like, just swear to me you are never going to wear one of those things. He almost looked hurt. Like, why would you need to ask me? Of course I'm never going to. I wonder though, when are we going to be faced with Durin, the prince, being tempted to make that choice, to pick up
at some point? Daddy gonna die, so at some point.
So let me throw something out there. What if he is faced with a decision that he has to put on the ring to potentially save Disa?
That's exactly what I was thinking, to save Disa and the kids.
That would be the only thing I think that would be the tension that would make it worth it.
Yep, 100%. I agree. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, it's going to end up being her that he has to save by putting it on. Oh, man. Well, it's Disa that we have to save by taking this ad break. How's that?
We're about to get back into our discussion of the 5th episode of Season 2, but we want to remind you that when you finish listening to us, the talk continues all night long at the Rings of Power wrap-up.
We have an amazing community of listeners, and they really do keep the conversation going. From the Rings of Power group on Facebook, our Twitter feed, our Reddit community, and more.
Now on Facebook, just look for Rings Wrap Up. You can follow the page, get our episodes and posts, but you're going to want to join the group to get in those great discussions about the TV show episodes, as well as our own episodes.
And if you're on Reddit, look us up at r/ringswrapup, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we're at ringswrapup.
And if you enjoy the show, please help us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and recommend us to your friends.
All right, well, now that we're back into talking about the show, we're going to move on from Khazad-dûm to Eregion, where we had some of the most, oh man, I got to tell you, some of the greatest scenes were in this thread.
They really were.
And yet we start with the weakest one. We start with the most anticlimactic scene in the whole show. What was the deal? We've been waiting for this moment, folks, for a long time, the reveal of the Doors of Durin. And I do like sort of the talk that's given about it, like we're enshrining the friendship between the elves and dwarves in stone. But then it's just like, oh, here are the doors. I hope you like them. It was the most anticlimactic shot.
It was a bit.
Really.
I mean, why didn't they at least show them when moonlight could shine on them so we could see them?
Yeah, I was thinking we're probably going to see them again in context.
Yeah, in place.
But if we're going to do that, why bother showing this scene? What I would have preferred them to do is hint at the fact that they were making them. Just hint at the fact that Na'vi was working on a separate project to honor the friendship. If it had just been something like that, and then later on we actually see them installed, would have been great. Yeah, it was anticlimactic.
With tiny little sapling trees to either side. The trees that we know will end up, becoming those massive holly trees.
It just seems odd that why bother setting up the Ithilden in the previous 2 episodes ago, whatever it was, and then not use it in this context.
I know. I was waiting for the Ithilden to sort of glow. Like, here's some moonlight. We're piping in some moonlight so you can see this effect. And then no.
There's got to be something for us to complain about because there
does.
So many good
we have
things.
to poke fun at something. There really were, because the rest of this thread was fantastic. We do get a couple of little hints at things. We get Mírdania standing over the side, sort of smitten by Annatar. I mean, she's just like, I'm standing next to Annatar. She's just sort of, I don't know. It's
about to get cringy very quickly.
Oh boy.
Creepy.
So many fistfuls of red flags. Fistfuls.
Yeah, definitely. In the meantime, a little bit of cringe as Celebrimbor cracks a joke at Narvi's expense. I like that, though, because it shows sort of this bantery relationship between the elves and dwarves, maybe, but it's kind of...
Yeah, it was a bit orcs, though, wasn't it? I mean,
it
he's
was
a
definitely
thief,
awkward.
a jewel thief.
You're talking about a dwarf who's elves already think dwarves are greedy, so... Can we not
do that?
Play into that stereotype?
It was a bit like calling Rumil a drunkard. I mean, what? Why?
Oh my goodness,
that was
good.
And it seemed out of character for Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor does not seem like the kind of. He's a serious guy. He was not the sort to.
He's a very serious guy
to joke about racial stereotypes.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a racist.
It was exactly what that was.
Is what it
was.
It was a racist joke.
It wasn't great, and it didn't land. And Brimby, don't do that again.
No. No, that was the one moment I thought, oh, this is not going well. But thankfully, the rest of Eregion went brilliantly, I have to say, because we immediately lead from there to that conversation between Celebrimbor and Annatar on the balcony. Oh, filled with all that wonderful manipulation. So good. Annatar at first, I love that line. Oh, it's difficult to stay festive when those most affected by Mordor's rise are still suffering. You're so laying it on thick.
The other thing I loved about that is that Celebrimbor calls him out for, quote, sowing seeds in others' minds. So Celebrimbor realizes what he's doing. I was telling a story to Alan before. I had this wonderful manager early on in my career who made you feel really good about yourself, and you knew she was manipulating you, but you didn't mind because she did it so well.
No.
And that's sort of what I feel about Annatar here. Like, Celebrimbor knows that he's sowing seeds in others' minds, that he's planting ideas to make people think it was their idea, but he still falls for it.
Yep.
I know.
Yep. It just goes to show the level of manipulation that Sauron is capable of.
How good Annatar is in this.
Yeah.
Because
it's almost like he's had practice.
Celebrimbor. Thousands of years of it, yes. Like you said, Celebrimbor really does identify the game that Annatar is playing and then still plays right into it. It's stunning. And I don't know if it's in this scene or later. I'm trying to remember where it is, but Annatar himself even says, be careful because you could be manipulated here.
Yeah.
Make sure that nobody else is manipulating
I think it's later, but
you.
he says, so we get this wonderful bit of alliteration. He says, as one who so masterfully manipulates metals.
Mm-hmm.
But then he goes on to say, just be mindful, someone is not manipulating you.
It's me. By the way, it's me.
Yeah, that's right. That was well done. That was really, really well done. And thank you, James, for having that exact quote, because I do love that alliteration. Masterfully manipulating metal and be mindful of,
He does it so well.
The other thing I love that Annatar says is we get him saying he fears Númenor, which was really, really nice to hear, because it's obviously something we read in the books. And it's not something that you would necessarily think to be the case. So it was nice that they actually brought that in, this idea that of all of the regions of Middle-earth and beyond, Annatar is fearful of Númenor.
Oh, that was another tick moment for me.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, it was. Definitely.
Yes, we've got that, because now we're going to set up the reason why Sauron ends up over in Númenor. So it's really good that they did that line. It might have felt a bit throwaway at the time, but it's not throwaway. It's actually really important.
No. And yet, just like everything else that Annatar says, right, there's truth, but also a lie, right? Yes, he's afraid of Númenor, but it's not because they're teetering between, making it and failing. That's not it at all. He knows full well what they're capable of, but he wants to sort of add that in there as like, we need to stabilize the kingdom by giving rings. We need to do the rings of men, and we've got to give them, because of course that's his whole deal about those most affected by Mordor's rise. It feels like one of those infomercials that's just designed to play on your sympathy and make you set up a recurring donation. But he's got to make these rings of men, and he's got to give them to Númenor, because we need to stabilize that kingdom. By stabilize, I mean completely take
yes.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's very Sauron, isn't it? When you think about what he does. He does actually want Middle-earth to be stable. It's just that his vision of that is of him being utterly in charge and everything being molded to his liking. So yes, this would make Númenor extremely stable as far as he's concerned, because they can never do anything to him if he controls them. So I honestly thought that some of the writing in this scene was spot on, because they really got to the heart of who Sauron is. So that was one of those moments for me that was just really good about this episode.
I agree. But speaking of writing, so Celebrimbor, obviously, he's taking the tack of, look, we can't give rings to men. Men are so easily corrupted. I mean, definitely callbacks to Elrond and the whole idea of corruptible men. So how hard was it for Annatar to have to use the names of these heroes?
Exactly.
But especially Beren. I feel like the guy stole a Silmaril from your boss's crown while he was napping. And let's remember, Sauron himself was so deeply involved in that story.
Yes.
Okay, so Beren, the son of Barahir, one of only those 12 companions that had escaped and that were hiding out in that forest. How did Morgoth capture them? How did Morgoth slay them? And how did Beren survive? Beren was out on his own, some sort of scouting thing, if I recall correctly. And one of Barahir's companions, one of the guys that Beren knew so well, Gorlim, was tricked by a vision, a phantasm, a ghost of his wife, his late wife. And that was Sauron himself that tricked Gorlim. So Sauron knows the Beren story inside and out. Oh, how hard was that? And that was good writing, I thought, just mentioning those three guys.
It was good writing, because, of course, the whole thing that you then extend it, and he had, if we go back to the Silmarillion, a really unpleasant moment where Beren and Luthien and a dog managed to make Sauron completely lose everything in that moment.
That's right. We talked about this when it was Gooey Sauron, when it was Squidding Pasta Boy. Yeah. The last time that he had to change his shape and kind of lose his form was exactly in that confrontation. Mm-hmm. Who's a good boy?
Who won? The bestest, goodest boy in the whole of Middle-earth.
That's right. I still think he's a giant golden retriever. But he's just such a good boy. But yeah, that was fun. To hear him I mean, obviously we've heard Eärendil's name before, right? Elrond's talked about his dad, but to hear the name of Tuor and the name of Beren, son of Barahir, was choice. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Slightly grumpy that, I thought Luthien was definitely greater than Beren. But,
yeah. We all know she saved the day.
Mm-hmm. But she's just not going to get mentioned, is she?
Well, she's not a man. The context is humans.
Yes, I know.
I know. And I know you know. Would it be interesting if one of the ring wraiths in this show, at least, turns out to be a female ring wraith?
I didn't mean male. I didn't mean male versus female. I meant human versus elf.
Because I mean, that's the thing. When Tolkien talks about the ring wraiths, he says men with capital M. So he's not talking about males. He's talking about the race of men. Mm-hmm. I think everybody's always assumed they're males.
It would be interesting, and I would love to see some of the Nazgul being women. Yeah,
I would too. I mean, we know that. Well, we'll get to this in a little bit about what we know about the ring wraiths. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So. His idea now, of course, to give rings to men of noble hearts, right? From Númenor to Rhûn, the 9 greatest mortal kings. All right, let's talk about this, because now we're definitely, okay, this is where I have to finally confess. Guys, I have struggled a long time with this whole idea of making the rings out of order and determining ahead of time that we've got the 9 and the 7.
Right.
Because that isn't how this works, right?
The way I always explained it is that the giving of the rings to the dwarves and men was like Sauron's plan C, right? It was only because he couldn't work with the elves that, get convinced the elves that he went to that plan. And so they're messing that up a bit, but we already diverged from that aspect of the books
a long time ago.
So I'm not really judging this episode in light of that. I'm kind of like,
that ship has sailed, and I'm finally having to just be like, all right, they are wedded to this idea. It's the same thing with the Mithril, the Mithranium storyline that we have criticized. I have to just accept that that's where they're going and now judge the show on its merits based on how it does this. Because if I keep coming back to that and beating that dead horse, it's more, I mean, man, I beat up the Feanor Pinata on the Prancing Pony podcast all the time, and he deserves it. But this, I can't keep coming back to this every single time and just making this the gripe. So, all right, now we get some interesting ideas as to why 9, right? 9 being the perfection of the 3, thrice perfected, 3 thrice perfected for the 3rd forging. Okay, all right, interesting little poetic way of addressing it. And why 9 versus 7? I've kind of always wondered that when he does get the 16 lesser rings and he doesn't get the 3 from Celebrimbor. Why does he decide 9 and 7 instead of 8 and 8? Yeah. Why the split?
I feel like this is an example where they're trying to explain some of that. It's like they've introduced the whole mithril thing to try to explain how the rings work, and in some senses, I feel like they're trying to add a little bit of detail that Tolkien never addressed, which is why 7.
And it's not an unreasonable suggestion here that there's a poetic thing. I think really it was just Sauron realizing, look, I could do 8 and 8, but I really get the hunch that men are going to be more corruptible. I'm going to go 9 and 7. He would have been smarter to do like 10 and 6 or 11 and 5, exactly. But that isn't exactly how they did it. So
can I just bring up a question? Now, Alan, you and I have talked about this before, but I want to get Sarah's insight into this too. Reading the books, did we feel like the kings that become the Nazgul only became kings because they had the rings, or were they kings to start with? Because the wording in this episode suggests they're picking people that are already kings.
That's the thing. And that isn't what the text says. It talks about how they became mighty in their day, kings, sorcerers, and warriors of old. They weren't already. Now, they would have already been pretty powerful people to begin with.
Yep.
In fact, we know from the text, if we look in Akalabeth, there's a line here where we read, yet Sauron was ever guileful. That's certainly been the case. And it is said that among those whom he ensnared with the 9 rings, 3 were great lords of Númenorian race. That's important because certainly Númenor is mentioned here. We know that 3 of them are great lords, which means
is
that
not
they were
kings.
Right, exactly. Not kings. It also does mean male, going back to our discussion earlier. We know those 3 are male because those would be the lords of Númenor. But we don't know anything else about the others. Camul could be a woman's name for all we know. Because Camul, by the way, Camul the Easterling is the only ring wraith with a name in Tolkien's lore. Now, the Witch King of Angmar sort of has this title, the Witch King of Angmar, so therefore he's a male. But we don't know about the rest. So we'll come back to that. But it sure is interesting that they're great lords. So they're going to be powerful people to begin with. And that's likely the case in the other places where the rings are distributed, but they're not kings necessarily until afterwards.
So who do you think the candidates are? If they go with the 3 Númenorians?
In Númenor for sure, it's going to be that Belzegar guy and probably Kemen.
And probably Kemen, yep.
That makes sense. Kemen would be a really good candidate, yes. And I have so many things to say about the way Kemen behaved in this episode.
Yeah,
My goodness.
he will definitely deserve that. I think we've talked about Theo likely becoming a ring wraith, which is a shame, but
somebody's got to do it.
I kind of hope that's not what happens, but somebody's got to do it. Waldreg, it's too late for him.
Oh, yeah. He's puppy chow.
So maybe if we find out that the Dark Wizard is actually just a mortal and that he's not Saruman and that he's not a blue wizard, maybe he gets one and becomes a great sorcerer of
the Witch King of Angmar.
He could become the witch, or even Camul.
I mean, the only other candidate in Hrun would be one of the Galdrim, right? Like Brunk or somebody like that.
Yeah.
We haven't been introduced to anyone though that's kind of a great lord in Hrun, other than the.
Not really, no.
Other than the Dark Wizard.
But Bombadil does actually talk about an Istar.
That's true. So I think that's why we landed on the fact that it has to pretty much be Saruman and Gandalf now. I mean, I know I'm still holding out the tiniest bit of hope that it's the blues, but yeah.
Unless, of course, Bombadil's talking about an Istar and he's not talking about that Dark Wizard that we've seen.
Except he says Dark Wizard the next line after he says Istar.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going back to being grumpy about that.
You are permitted for that, for sure. So we've talked about this. We're really getting away from the actual rings lore, but, like we said, that ship sailed. I like the idea of him kind of determining to give these rings to men of noble heart, right, as he puts it. But it will be interesting to see who those men are.
Well, it's entirely possible he didn't actually mean that. He's just saying that to Celebrimbor as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because noble heart, he's not going to give one to Elendil. And Elendil wouldn't take it.
No.
By noble heart, I mean easily manipulated. I mean, that's the thing. You just have to figure out what he really means by these words. But Celeborn, we haven't seen Celeborn. We don't know if we're ever going to see Celeborn. Celebrimbor.
Oh, Mr. Silver Clam.
We may see his daughter, though. We'll come to that.
We will come to that. He suggests, look, we shouldn't push so quickly. I like this line. We can't let our reach exceed our grasp. Let's not go beyond our abilities to do this. Annatar's like, fine, I'll just make the rings myself. Oh man. I do like that because it shows just how out of control here Celebrimbor is. He does not have the power now to stop Annatar from doing anything.
Nope.
He can't get in the way. He can't even be a tackling dummy and slow him down. He's not even a speed bump anymore. But yeah, boy, that was a really great scene. We wait a little while to come back to this line, right? Because we then go to, I think we go back to Khazad-dûm, we go back to the Númenorian line, and we come back to Celebrimbor working up in his little loft there, and he hears a shout, and he rises to investigate. This was interesting because I think, James, at first, you and I thought the same thing. They've developed telekinesis, right? The little tools moving slowly across the table. I'm like, wow. So the rings are like some sort of a force magnifier. I'm going to wait now for somebody to do like a force choke or a force pull. But no, it turns out that Mírdania is missing. She's clearly, and now you're like, oh boy, what are they doing? They're making the rings give her invisibility. She attacks Celebrimbor before he manages to get the ring off of her. Let's talk about this whole idea of a ring of power giving an elf invisibility. There's multiple layers to this that we might have some struggles. Yeah. Right.
That's a problem.
Originally, my thought was, only the one ring is giving invisibility. I even wrote in my notes, oh my gosh, are they trying to make the one ring already? That doesn't make any sense. He doesn't forge that until the fires of Mount Doom. I mean, that throws off the whole thing because otherwise Frodo could have just gone and built himself a nice big forge and melted the ring.
And that would have done it. Yeah.
So that was really throwing me off. But then I remembered what Gandalf says to Frodo in Shadow of the Past and Lord of the Rings. He's talking about Eregion and the Elven Rings. He says that, the lesser rings were only essays in the craft. We've talked about that line before. He says, yet still to my mind, dangerous for mortals, talking about the lesser ones. But the great rings, plural, the rings of power, they were perilous. A mortal Frodo who keeps one of the great rings does not die, etc., etc. And if he often uses the ring to make himself invisible. Mm-hmm. So that means the rings of power, all of them, can bestow invisibility, which is something I did not know. I did not remember. I had not really put two and two together.
Mm-hmm. Well, it clearly doesn't do it for the dwarven rings.
Well, no. And we read why, because they are made of...
They're more rooted in the earth. They're more rooted in the physical world than the earth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's also why they don't fade. It's the same kind of thing. They have this endurance that prevents that from happening to them.
Yeah. But I can accept that that this is what happens to mortals who wear one of these rings of power.
But then how do we get that to an elf? I really struggle with that.
Yeah, this is where I have a problem.
Galadriel and Elrond or heck, in this show itself, Galadriel, Gil-galad, and Círdan wear the elven rings, and they don't make them invisible.
Which makes sense, because they shouldn't.
Yeah, they shouldn't. But neither should these make an elf invisible.
No,
and I really, Mírdania should not be invisible here. But fine.
And then, of course, Annatar afterwards says that she's been in the unseen world while wearing the ring.
That was another problem, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I really, really did not like that too much. Again, we call back to the Lord of the Rings films, and we see Frodo in the Wraith world, so to speak, even at the Prancing Pony, where he falls, the ring gets on his finger, and he hears Sauron, I see you, all this sort of stuff. Not in the books. In the books, there is no mention made. Frodo does not say anything about what it looked like. And I know I may be arguing from the absence of evidence, but the fact is that Tolkien, though he doesn't often give us the inner thoughts of other characters, always is giving us the inner thoughts of Frodo.
Yeah.
We're always getting what he thinks. We're always getting his perspective on things. The fact that he mentions nothing and says nothing suggests that nothing happened, that it was just made him invisible. And we can even go back, again, absence of evidence, I know, but Bilbo, you think, okay, Frodo, here's the ring. And by the way, when you use it to hide from Lobelia, look out for Sauron because he'll see you.
You're going to pass into the unseen world.
We do know that in the books, he passes into the unseen world at 2 points at least, on Weathertop and at the Fords of Bruinen.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't really pass into the Wraith world per se when he puts it on Amon Hen. Instead, he gets this sort of vision, almost Palantir-like, of seeing things from far away. I'm going to throw something out there, even though it's not officially mentioned as the reason, but I feel like the reason why he can enter that Wraith world, well, the reason why the Wraith world at the Fort of Bruinen was because he had the shard in him and he was almost a Wraith himself. But the reason that it happens on Weathertop is the proximity to the Nazgul. It is that they're so close that's what enables this veil to be pierced by the bearer of that ring. It doesn't happen on Amon Hen. He doesn't see the shadowy world that he's seen before. Instead, he's just seeing details around the world. So what do we make of that here? Wraith world. Could she even enter Wraith world? If she did, is this what it would look like? And why in the world would this ring give her the ability to enter into Wraith world?
I'm just really uncomfortable with that. Again, if we go back to the books, right, we have Glorfindel, Glowy Glorfindel, as we just mentioned, right, who is able to be in both worlds at once because of who he is, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. This is Mírdania, whoever Mírdania happens to be, and we'll get to that in a little while, I'm sure. But I just don't think that putting on a ring is going to make an elf take a trip through the unseen world.
Exactly. Too much power. An elf has would not succumb to that, and would not fall into the Wraith world, so to speak, and be. Yeah.
I mean, okay. What they're obviously trying to set up is that this is an effect that the rings of men are going to have. I mean, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for an elf to have that effect done on them, it just didn't make much sense.
Yeah.
And also it went on a little bit long. There were lots of floaty tools going on for just that little bit too long. Cut
the
that
anvil
scene in
dropping.
half,
yeah. I mean, it felt like a Wile E. Coyote moment with the anvil crashing to the floor. There's something to be said, I suppose, if we're going to justify this somehow. If Frodo's entering the Wraith world because of the presence of the Nazgul or the presence of the Nine Rings, though the Nine Rings are not there, they're actually possessed by Sauron at that point. Sauron's right there. And it is very possible, I don't know about very possible, but it's slightly possible that Sauron's presence alone.
Right. That is the difference here, that Sauron is standing right there, right?
Right there.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want to give the game away in quite that way, would he?
No, I was thinking the same thing. But then who is it that she sees, right? She talks about this creature with skin made of flame, pitiless eyes, been here with us all along. I'm thinking his name is Saranatar. But then the conversation happens later on, and we'll get to that, where Well, no, we'll get to it now.
Talking about
Annatar's got this manipulative conversation with her, claims to have seen the same thing she's seen, but I didn't want to say anything until I've had a chance to help him heal. What are you talking about? It's Celebrimbor. It's the toll that making the rings is put on him. And so that kind of leads to a little bit of a logical sense, because Celebrimbor is the one she tries to attack at the end with the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
So is she seeing Celebrimbor that way? In which case Sauron is clearly manipulating what she's seeing in Wraithworld. It's all a vision. It's all his trickery. Sort of like the way he looked like the second coming when he walks out of the furnace, you know?
Let me throw something out there. We know, think about the effect that the rings of power generally have on elves that we've seen from Galadriel and Gil-galad, right? Gil-galad has these visions of what Sauron's doing, what's going to happen. Maybe Mírdania's seeing something along those lines. Is it a future vision she's seeing?
Oh, that's interesting. That could be.
That could be.
Definitely.
So,
be.
in other words, the way it's described is problematic because it does sound like passing into the unseen world and all of the sort of thing that the mortals experienced. It's not unreasonable that she would see things wearing a ring along the lines that Gil-galad or Galadriel have seen.
Yeah, the visions. That's true. The visions. So she could be seeing something that was happening, in the future.
I'm just thinking of that particularly in light of her line about he's been here with us all along. Is she seeing? She's getting a stronger sense of what's going on along the lines that Gil-galad or Galadriel have.
Okay. It'll prove, of course, to all be a deceit of Sauron as well.
Ultimately, yes.
Fine,
but of course, what he's done is put it into her mind that what she's seen is Celebrimbor gone bad.
Yes.
And she's sowing the seeds.
And you see that later,
she's
too.
sowing the seeds of distrust as well.
Yes.
Now, Mírdania's constantly thinking, can I trust Celebrimbor?
Yes. Rather than can I trust Annatar?
which we'll get to. So we're going to come back to that a little bit, but I really, that was so tied into what happened here. I had to at least bring that conversation in. So how did the rings gain this power, right? Celebrimbor is like, what have we done to change these rings? Did they, they added more mithril, it turns out, right? That is a little odd. First of all, they have so little of it to begin with. And we're stuck on that line, aren't we? That mithril really is the power.
I mean, yeah. Is that the truth, though? It could be a deception, right? Because we know in the books the difference between the 3 and the other 16 is that Sauron had no part in the making of the 3.
Right.
Now, they've said that that's true here, that Sauron didn't touch, was involved in the making of the 3. But so I'm not quite sure why they need to emphasize another distinction.
Yeah.
That, these ones are also different because they had more mithril.
Yeah,
I don't know why they needed to do that, but maybe it is part of the deception as well.
I hope that that's what it is, because I keep wanting to come back to this idea that we're going to find out eventually the mithril story is a bunch of hooey, and that that really isn't the case. That elves were never going to fade. And I know. I keep remember season 1 when I kept saying I hope the real Gil-galad is in a cave somewhere tied up, and that was Sauron in a Gil-galad meat suit. I still wish that was true. So Prince Durin comes to report a problem with the rings. I'm sorry, Prince Durin, there are no refunds or exchanges. All sales are final. We can't even give you store credit. And besides, you're not going to want these men's rings anyway. He explains what the problem is. The problem is it's made my father an absolute greedy idiot, right? That is not who he is. He has become deeply greedy. And now we find out what that price was that he said to the people from the other 7 clans or the other 6 clans, right? You can tell your bosses they can have a ring if they give me half of what they get. Half, man. Woo. That is a lot. So the point here, though, is that we know that the rings have this greedy effect on dwarves. We talked about how that definitely is very, very lore accurate. But we're coming back to, is this a problem with the rings? Is this a bug or a feature? Or a design? Is this a feature or a bug? And Celebrimbor's like, look, there can be no fault in the rings. Certainly, we've done nothing wrong.
Or if it's not the rings,
but
maybe it's
this next bit is so wonderfully manipulative.
Wasn't it?
There is a problem, and it's you. It's your fault because you were being deceptive. You were lying.
So
it's
good.
all about putting the blame on. I mean, it's perfect gaslighting. Absolutely brilliant.
And the way he does it, and I know we're jumping around the line a little bit, but we can't help it because these are all tied together. Celebrimbor asks him point blank, did you in some way alter the Dwarven rings, yes or no? He just wants an answer on the record. No. Pause. We did. Whoa, man.
Right. He doesn't even blame Celebrimbor. He says we did it. No. It wasn't me. It was us.
We did.
You're part of this too.
And yet, and the we problem was the deceit, the letter to the king that, your lie is why there's something wrong with the Dwarven rings. Now you've got to go to Lindon. You got to leave here so that I can do all the things that I want to do on my own without off your
Can I just say there was that beautiful setup for this, which was earlier we see this juxtaposition of Gil-galad receiving the letter, and we hear the voiceover of Celebrimbor's voice as Gil-galad is reading the letter. But that's juxtaposed with them showing the actual forging of the ring. So it was beautiful, just to really emphasize that deception, that the letter and reality were not aligned.
Yeah, really, really good. And we have jumped around a little bit, so we actually kind of glanced over or skipped over the line that I really enjoyed, because Durin seems to be the only one who gets this, Prince Durin. It's like, how much do you really know about this Annatar?
Excellent question.
Really good question. And Celebrimbor, you ought to be thinking about that. But that's actually the point in this whole storyline when we get that manipulative conversation with Mírdania that we talked about earlier, the one where he swears her to secrecy about having seen Celebrimbor. But let's talk about this, because there was a moment, the cringy red flag moment.
Even the secret keeping. It just occurs to me that's classic manipulation and grooming technique, right? Oh, we're gonna have a little secret, and we're not going to tell anyone about it.
Just you and me.
Oh man, you're not kidding. That is exactly it.
It was horrible. It was horrible to watch, but just fantastic writing. I mean, it was fantastically horrible.
Yeah.
But then
it is evil at work. Yes, it is so good.
Then he makes that comment, and it's one of those moments where Annatar doesn't say anything, and Mírdania is wondering what he's thinking. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he actually says, "Oh no, I shouldn't." Which again is
that's guaranteed to make someone say, "Oh, come on."
Right. And then you could say, well, you asked
exactly.
me. You wanted to know. Which again, the perfect manipulation. He's such a red flag. He's a walking red flag.
Oh yes. He's a carnival of red flags.
Carnival of red flags. James, you've got the actual quote. What is it that he says to her precisely?
So this is after he's just said, promise me you'll speak to none other of it, including him. And she says, I promise. And then he says, how strange. When the light caught your hair, for a moment, you seemed her perfect likeness. She asks, whose likeness? Why, Lady Galadriel's, of course.
Lady Galadriel's, of course.
I'm sorry. I just felt my spine shudder when you were reading that. And it's nothing to do with you, James, and everything to do with the line.
Well, the worst part is after that, he touches her hair.
I know.
So creepy.
Get away from me, dude. Ugh.
Oh.
Other than her asking whose likeness, there's no other response from Mírdania at that point.
And that in itself speaks volumes, I think, because, she's one of the few with the long blonde hair. And, okay, so I'm going to throw this out there.
Yep, I think we have to.
Mírdania, however you want to pronounce that appalling elvish name that really doesn't work, it's Celebrian.
You think it is for sure? I know there's definitely a possibility. They're setting that possibility.
They're setting that up, aren't they? Yes.
What's the thing? People had suggested that was the case, and there wasn't a ton of evidence, except this seems to be clearly setting that up.
It's definitely setting it
unless
up
it's a
to where we're supposed to suspect that. That this is. But that's the thing. This show's really good at giving you the mystery boxes, as we saw last season. I don't mean really good at it. I mean like. That's what they do. That's just the thing that they do is give you a mystery box.
They promised they weren't going to do that anymore.
Well, this isn't a mystery. Can I just say I don't consider this a mystery box because no one is questioning who is Mírdania. Who is Mírdania? We must find out who Mírdania is. It's not that at all. It's just setting up this twist.
Well, right. It is. That's the thing. It's telegraphing it. And I know last season I sort of out-tricked myself. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Halbrand is Sauron. Because it's so obvious, but because it's so obvious, it can't be.
Right.
Therefore, it must be somebody else, right? And that's kind of the thing. This line makes it so obvious, quote unquote, that we're going to find out she's Celebrian or Celebrian. And I'm never quite sure because the accent is over the I, but the regular rules, it wouldn't fit that. It would be Celebrian.
The accent doesn't change the stress.
That's what I thought. I thought so. Yep, Celebrian. This is really telegraphing Celebrian's identity. But then we're going to run into so many questions of how in the world did she get here?
And why is she called Mírdania?
And why is she... Did she have a Glaurung moment? Is she going to forget who she was?
Well, I'm thinking Aragorn as well. Like Aragorn not knowing who he was and it being revealed when he came of age.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, maybe she just doesn't know.
I mean, we're already off-piste in terms of Galadriel Celeborn story anyway, and all the timing of that. So who knows what impact that has on the Celebrian timeline.
Yeah, but then going back to season 1, right? And Galadriel's being sent home. At no point does she say, what about my daughter?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah? Can I at least go say goodbye? No, there's nothing there at all. I mean, bad mommy?
Yeah. Does she even know that she's there? Maybe she thinks Celebrian's dead, just like she thinks Celeborn is dead. I mean, and I don't know. I also really struggle because they're clearly also setting her up to be the betrayer. Like she will betray Celebrimbor to Annatar. That much is telegraphed for sure, no matter who she actually is. I then have a hard time with Elrond marrying her, with her being the mother of Arwen, for crying out loud. This does not work for me. But I guess
this could be more along the lines of the misdirection that the stranger was set up.
Yeah.
So we've had that before, cases where things seem to be set up.
Misdirection. Yeah.
It could be. I mean, it would be nice if we don't have 2 female characters that are bad and they disobey people and they betray people, and it would be nice if it wasn't 2 female characters, but anyway, whatever. We'll see in the end, I suppose, but it really does seem to be setting her up to be Celebrian.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not quite willing to make the prediction yet, but they are definitely setting it up to be her. So, oh man. If nothing else, we got some wonderfully cringy dialogue and a really good example of the kinds of things that you should take to your HR man.
Definitely.
So we get Celebrimbor and Annatar now arguing about the Dwarven rings. This is where we get that incredible gaslighting, right? The whole, did you in some way alter the Dwarven rings? Yes or no? No, we did. And getting all that deceit in there. Oh, man, that scene, I got to tell you, that was actually one of the best moments for me for the show. Just the way that Celebrimbor gets manipulated and falls into it, even though he knows full well.
He almost talks himself into the situation that he's in, right?
Well, the brilliant thing is that Annatar actually suggests that he goes to Lindon and confesses the truth. And he sort of forces Celebrimbor to double down on the deception by saying, no, you should come clean. You should come clean. And Celebrimbor's, no, I can't.
Yeah. I can't.
I can't do that. The consequences of that would be
Gilgadaddy will send me to my room.
Well, he said no, but he says he'll never be allowed to forge again. And so it's interesting that that's what he's most worried about.
And it really is, because you go back to last episode and he's talking about how this is my time. Yes. I can't allow this to be stopped. It's he has to. Ooh, you're right. Annatar just fully said something. Well, the only way forward then is through. We got to dive into the mailstream even deeper.
Again, he's made it Celebrimbor's idea.
Yeah.
It's his choice.
He really has. That's some really good writing, I have to admit. Mm-hmm. Just getting that flow of Annatar being able to convince Celebrimbor to think of this himself. But that's when we get this sort of good cop, bad cop moment. Celebrimbor goes up and talks to his smiths. I am curious, since they use a lot of names, why have they not used Gwaith y Mírdania? Is that a name that maybe they just haven't gone to? Because that's not in the appendices, is it, James? They'd have to seek permission.
They would, and maybe they just decided that it wasn't worth it in terms of...
It wasn't worth it, yeah. I mean, they're probably saving their attempts for something that they think is much more important to the narrative itself.
Maybe that's just why they called Mírdania, right? I mean, that's supposed to be enough of a reference to the Gwaith y Mírdania. No, but okay.
No.
What do you make of his line talking about agency in stone and ore and how it disobeys? Does that sound right to you? I mean, we get a little bit of hints of agency in stone. I'm thinking of Legolas explaining how, the earth doesn't forget the elves very quickly, and there's memory of it in these stones. So
in the context of Eregion, is
exactly, in Eregion in Holland itself, right? So, I guess we could maybe argue that there's some sort of, awareness. I know I made the argument that Caradhras and the passive Caradhras in the Lord of the Rings wasn't Saruman, wasn't even Sauron. It was just some places are evil. Some places have these sort of awareness or slight, not sentience, but I mean, the mountain was willing. The mountain was making the choice to prevent them from going over.
Yeah, Tolkien does use animism. So
he does quite a bit. So I think that fits. And this is where we get a reminder of the manipulation of Mírdania and by Annatar, when he sort of looks over at her like, see, remember I told you he was losing his mind.
I warned you about him.
Don't say anything. Yeah, exactly. But don't say anything because it's our little secret. So now they have to atone because of this problem. By the way, we've all failed. He doesn't say, I lied, I wrote this letter. He says, we have failed, and the only way we can atone is to complete the rings together. And once again...
I have 100% worked for a manager like this.
Boy, I'm so sorry. Oh, man, that's awful. Yeah.
Yep. Honestly, I have come across more than one head teacher or deputy head teacher or head of department that I have worked for who will mess up and then will come yell at the staff and say, you have to do better.
Yeah, you have to fix this.
Yeah, this is terrible, terrible management. And
really,
we all know
really
these
is.
people.
Yeah. And Annatar is guiding him down that road.
Yes.
Absolutely setting him up to be the bad cop so that he can be the good cop, which we'll get to in a bit. But before that, in the talk that Celebrimbor gives, he talks about how the 9 have to do a lot more than just help men. They have to bring balance to the force. They're the chosen one. I'm sorry, wrong movie. They have to bring balance to the project, which I thought was a little bit of a stretch, but okay. Draw strength from the 3 and redeem the 7, redeem us all.
That was weird.
That was one of those cringy moments, but okay, whatever. I still, even as I'm kind of picking apart little moments, reminder, I still think this was the best episode. And it was really good.
Yeah, I feel myself more willing to hand wave a few things simply because the rest of the episode was so good. Yeah.
And again, this is, I think, maybe just Celebrimbor starting to sort of lose his mind a little bit. That, we've whatever it takes is what we've got to do, because we can't let Gil-galad know. We can't tell the truth. We have to finish this. And that means making all of them and hopefully saving the world.
Mírdania's line after he gives his speech is what has gotten into him.
Yeah. Which is exactly the kind of thinking that Annatar is, putting in her head.
Which, of course, gives Annatar the opportunity then to step forward and say, my friends, don't be discouraged.
Yeah.
Your master may seem unreasonable.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
Good cop, bad cop. And Annatar gets to be the good cop.
Exactly.
And let's go ahead and get to work. And I do love the look on his face as they close that scene, right? The Forge gets back to work and he's just looking smug.
Glee. It's glee.
Everything is going to plan.
Yep.
You can sort of see him rubbing his hands together. Yeah. It's happy Sauron. Yeah. Happy Sauron noises. A fantastic thread. That whole Eregion thread this time around was, with, obviously the couple exceptions we talked about, was relatively pitch perfect. I mean, they just got so much of that thematic material in there. The Celebrimbor Annatar scenes are always amazing.
Oh, the actors knocked it out of the park.
They really did. And Vickers is just terrifyingly good at this. I mean, it's like, I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life, but holy cow, he is a really evil, downright terrible human being here.
He's really inhabiting Annatar.
Oh, he is. And doing it so well. Speaking of terrible human beings, let's move on to the Númenor thread, where our Pharazôn, and I think we can now say our Pharazôn because he is now the king, is looking out past the white tree over Armenelas towards the west. Oh, talking about the Tower of... Have you ever seen Son, my pathetic son, who I'm not very proud of? Have you ever seen the Tower of Erisea? No, of course you haven't, because only the keen-eyed can see it, only from the Mental Tarma, and that is accurate. That is absolutely 100% accurate, that keen-eyed people could see the tower at the Havens of Tol Eressëa from the Mental Tarma. Yep. Good stuff. Yeah.
I want to say just how happy this scene made me. I mean, not happy in the sense because, our Pharazôn is a terrible father. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a moment. And Kemen is just creepy Kevin.
Yeah.
But this whole scene where they are talking about Erisea, and we're starting to feel Pharazôn's desire to live beyond the containment of years that is allotted, because his greatness is more than that. You can see Kemen's slight confusion. Well, you're king now. King is good.
Yeah, you've got all the power that you want, man.
But
do whatever you want.
You can see that this is not going to be enough for Pharazôn. No. And I like the fact that, finally, we are starting to address some of the most important aspects of the whole idea of Númenor and where we're going to go from there. Kemen telling him, let's make Númenor the greatest that has ever been. And in that, I can feel the beginnings of their push for colonialism and their taking of slaves and all that. Can you tell? I liked this scene. Yes, I liked it.
It might have been the best scene. We talk about this episode being possibly the best episode of the show. This scene
was excellent.
Just this scene with Tristan, and I don't remember the young man who plays Kemen, but this scene, and Tristan just knocked it out of the park. I mean, terrifying. The look on his face, that incredible pause when he speaks about Kemen's mother. Or just about before he speaks about Kemen's mother.
Yeah.
Ooh, it just is filled with this tension. It's so good. He starts to say, you can hear him sort of like he's about to say something, and then he stops himself. And then he finally speaks. And it's so well delivered, and it just builds this tension so perfectly.
And what a horrible thing to say to your son.
Oh, terrifying. Terrifying. It's a good thing your mother died in childbirth.
Yes. And she said that you'd come to a bad end. Oh, that's nice.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. But getting back to what you said, the thematic material, this now we're finally starting to see not only a drive towards the imperial tendencies of Númenor under the later kings, but we're also seeing finally that thirst for immortality. That line that Pharazôn says, no matter how high we climb, some things will forever be withheld from our grasp, is so telling and really actually well written.
Yes.
I thought this was really
and
well
this
done.
comes back to, this is another one of those things where we've been sort of concerned that they haven't introduced this theme enough, and then all of a sudden they just hit it right on the nail. I mean, it's I again found this, one of the best, if not the best scene in my favorite episode of all. And it's because of this way they introduce in a very lore accurate way. And just the wording of it is just fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, it really was.
Really good.
I thought so too. And of course, after he tells Kemen, he's so good at setting his son up for this, right? After he tells him, your mom made this prophecy, and he wants to know, well, what did she say? Well, I've got a plan for you. And if you do this, then I'll tell you this terrible thing that your mother said. And if you don't, well, I'll find some other purpose for you, you useless.
Yeah.
Which is the unsaid part. But, he's so abusive. I have no pity for Kemen.
No, because he's a horrible person.
Yeah, but this scene almost made me feel sorry for him.
Well, that's about to change.
How could he have turned
that's
out
about
otherwise?
to change. But
right.
You're right.
But that's one of the really good things about the storytelling here is that Kemen isn't two-dimensional. I mean, he's a hideous person, but he's not two-dimensional. We see his pain and his hurt when Pharazôn is talking to him about what his mother said and something about his mother. So we can see that there is that in there. And also this almost frantic desire to do something to make Pharazôn proud of him.
Anything.
And that's all built into it. So when we get the scenes that we're going to come and talk about in a moment, where Kemen behaves like a really hideous person, we can actually see the balance there, that Kemen is, he's partly doing it because this is the kind of person he is. He's a nasty little bully.
Yeah.
But also he's doing this because this is what his father has asked of him, and he's going to do this because he wants his father to be proud of him. So you can see all of these things going on, and that's what I like. It's not just Kemen the sniveling son. There's so much more to it than that, and I really like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Man, what a scene. Just all throughout. We cut after that to a scene that suggests the usurpation of the throne might not be a fully done deal, even though it turns out it really is, because Elendil and Míriel are talking. He's like, look, people still support you, right? The Sea Guard is loyal. You've got people who back you. This is not over yet. But she really sort of surrenders that moment after she talks about what did he see in the Palantir. Her point is that, look, the path that we're on now has changed. All I saw for years was the wave, and you've seen something different. So this is better than that. She's wrong, but she's like, Pharazôn's kingship is part of that path. Now, granted, that's a path towards a big wave thingy, but it's also, it sort of reminds me a little bit of this idea of Spibimi, that we've, okay, I'm going to have to explain that phrase here. On the Prancing Pony podcast, all the way back in season 1, we're talking about Melkor, Sauron's boss, and what a bad guy he is. And Ilúvatar, the one god, says to him basically, nothing you do is going to work out the way you think it is. It's going to work out for my plan. You shall prove but mine instrument. Shall prove but mine instrument is shortened to Spibimi, S-P-B-M-I. And this is kind of that in a nutshell. She's like, look, I don't like what happened. I don't like that I'm blind. I don't like that I've lost my queenship. This is all pretty crappy, but it looks like, based on the vision that you've seen, it's not the wave. This is a different path because of what Pharazôn's done, and Pharazôn is part of that plan, whatever that plan may be.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she's also assumed that the eagle arriving was also for Pharazôn and not for her.
Oh.
Which would suck.
Yeah.
Which does really, really suck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seemed it didn't take much to look at that eagle and realize he was saying, what is wrong with you people?
If ever an eagle could look disgusted, that eagle looked disgusted.
He really looked disgusted and confused and like, are you, what? No.
So yes, Muriel does say Pharazôn's kinship is part of that path. But what do you think she means when she says, no matter how hard they push you, no matter what they try and take, you must not jeopardize Númenor's new destiny? What does she think the new destiny is that he might jeopardize?
The fact that it's not going to be swamped with a big wave.
Is it just simply, no matter how bad Pharazôn is, at least
anything
we're not going
to keep us off the path.
I think that's it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Anything that will stop what I saw in the Palantir happening.
The only thing I saw in the Palantir.
We have to do something different.
Her next line's interesting, though. She says, you must remain the calm at the storm's eye, which seems to me to suggest she's kind of like, somebody has to be the reasonable person. There's going to be some crazy stuff coming up.
A lot of polarization, a lot of fighting.
You
got to be
right.
Yeah. And he takes that to heart. I mean, we see that in a moment later that we'll talk about, where he really is the calm in the storm's eye. In fact, it's the very next scene, right? We move to the harbor. Sea Guard members loyal to the Queen have now been stripped of rank on the authority of a novice member of the Architects Guild.
I know. That's a bit weird.
That was a little weird. I mean, sure, Kemen's standing right there, and it's really on his authority. But it's a little weird that Eärien is saying it's on my authority. Your authority? Who the heck are you to have authority over the Sea Guard,
Well, he does make the remark, overthrowing a queen has earned you a promotion.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah,
Ouch.
I did like that line.
I think this whole episode could be termed daddy issues.
Yes, most assuredly. Eärien is oh man. So of course she thinks, or at least she phrases it like, hey, I'm doing you guys a favor because Belzegar wanted you all charged with treason. Really, for what? For following the law, for thinking that the queen should become the queen?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly there's very little of a justice system here. It just goes straight to the top, and the top decides what to do.
Justice is whatever Pharazôn decides it is, isn't it?
That's exactly right. So we get that really foreboding confrontation between Eärien and her father. I mean, clearly she is not done. And this is going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm still standing by the fact that she is going to build the temple to Morgoth for Sauron next season.
She says you're walking a treacherous path. And he says, and yours is made of seawater, take care to keep your feet beneath you. It's a long way to the bottom. Which I thought was a wonderful foreshadowing of where she may end up.
Isn't it?
Yeah. That's true.
Maybe we're actually going to get, instead of Miriel clinging to the mountain, it's going to be Eärien.
And then she'll get, oh, wow. That would, we get that confrontation with Elendil and Kemen when he turns in the sword and, loses his rank. I remember writing down in my notes as I'm like outlining this, he's just so punchable. Like you just, want to punch Kemen. Yes. He's just a punching bag.
He's got that smug smile on his face that makes you want to take your
man.
hand off it.
Yeah, you really, really do. You just, he's so... They did definitely do a good job of making us hate him. Absolutely despise this guy. Like I said before, I felt sorry for him briefly in that moment when Farazan was manipulating him, and then immediately that pity's gone, and it's now gone forever. I did love, though, the beautiful send-off that his men gave him. Now, this whole moment comes back to what we talked about, calm in the storm's eye. Elendil has a moment here where he could very easily turn this into a confrontation, where he could argue, where he could, and he would win, certainly in the eyes of the people standing there. But it's not going to lead to what Muriel wants. So he backs off and he walks away.
He's right. Oh, Captain, my Captain moment.
Yes. Yeah. And he's like, you're right. He's right. I'm not a captain of anybody anymore. And he walks away. And his men.
There were just no desks there for them to stand on. But had there been,
I was thinking of exactly that film.
Yeah. Oh man, so good. I mean, just Valar bless you, Captain. And so many good. Just my heart was so warm for the love that his men were showing him, and
but
how hard it must have been.
The parallel, which we'll get to, of course, with Valandil saying, "Yes, Captain, farewell, Captain," all that kind of thing, and then the scene that we'll get later with his last words.
I'm still crying.
Yeah,
I'm still crying. We'll get to that. We'll get to it soon, sadly. We do get a brief moment between Eärien and Valandil. It seems like maybe at some point, we do know they were close. They were all friends, when Isildur was still around. You were one of my closest friends. Valandil's obviously got no interest in being her friend anymore, but she still has some sort of feelings for him because she's like, maybe I can protect you, right? Maybe I have some influence here. Maybe I could, prevent this from happening. I think, though, that just the fact that she showed any kindness towards him or even slight affection, as I think she reached out and touched his arm or something like that. Kemen saw this.
Oh yeah, he was not pleased.
Displeased.
Jealous boyfriend.
Yes, exactly. And that definitely plays a role in what we saw later in the episode.
Yes, yeah. And that's another red flag, of course. Possessive boyfriend, that's a no.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a bad man. So we cut to the Palantir, now about to be used by the bad father of the bad man, our Farazan himself. I do want to know what he's going to see in it. We don't get that revealed to us in this episode. I don't know when we will, but I think we will eventually. I imagine it'll be the victorious celebration over the armies of Sauron when, they go to Middle-earth and dominate.
Or him landing on Eressëa and planting a flag.
Oh, even better. But the Palantir's not going to show him being in the Caves of the Forgotten for thousands of years.
No.
Spoiler alert.
You want immortality? Be careful what you wish for.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We cut to that last scene of the Númenorian thread, the remembrance ceremony, the high priest, Elendil and Valandil. What did you guys make? This is one... I know, I like the show. I like the episode. I cringed at the use of the far green country under a swift sunrise line.
They keep doing
again.
That. Yep, they keep doing that.
I mean, that's Peter Jackson's.
Oh, it's not only a callback to Jackson, an annoying callback to Jackson again, where it takes you out of this film and puts you into another. It reminds you that even Jackson didn't get that line right, because that's only the death, or so to speak, the passing that the elves experience.
Yes.
Men don't get that.
No.
Hobbits don't get that.
No.
Frodo does, but Pippin doesn't. I don't know what Gandalf building
Pippin
up
doesn't.
Pippin's hopes, and it's kind of like, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, that far green country under a swift sunrise is only for Frodo, not for you.
It's a beautiful set of lines, isn't it? It's a beautiful vision and fabulous, but it doesn't belong here.
No.
It doesn't belong here. Stop doing that. You can write good lines.
Yeah.
You've proved that. Stop doing this. It just doesn't work. It takes me out for a moment. And actually, It's a shame because the whole scene is a great scene.
It is. Literally,
so there was just no
from
need to steal that line because you can write better lines for this moment.
Write something about how, we don't know where.
Right. The gift of Ilúvatar. Let's talk about the gift of Ilúvatar.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
That we put our
it would've been
trust in Iluvatar.
Right, because that's the difference between the faithful and the king's men. The faithful don't need immortality. They're not wanting that. They know that what they have is a gift.
And they trust in Iluvatar that all, as they pass, through the veil or whatever, will be well. Because that's all part of being the faithful, as you say.
Yeah,
so it's
100%.
It's a shame every now and then.
Yeah, that was a tough one. The rest of the scene, though, fantastic, right? I mean,
yes,
the ceremony's
absolutely.
cut short. Kemen crashes the party. I mean, the touching moment, though, with the little candle going out on the seashell, and your heart is hurting for Elendil. You just want to say, he's alive. He's okay. He's going to be okay. But then Kemen crashes the party, and we're going to shut down the shrine. It's in the way of the new aqueduct. Sort of absolutely put me in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like
yes,
the Earth is being demolished to make way for
a bypass.
They didn't check the local planning office.
Yeah. Oh, you mean in the basement? In the file cabinet.
In the file cabinet.
Guarded by a leopard. It's just...
And then the petty thing that he does with the icon. I mean, what the heck? There was just no need for that. You knew he was going to do it, didn't you? You just knew he was going to do that.
Of course.
He's such a bully.
Yeah.
And he's such any opportunity he has to exercise power over others, because, of course, he only has that power over others through his circumstances. He has himself nothing to offer, and no leadership, and no authority, and no strength. And so he has to take advantage of what little he does have. And so he smashes the relic. Elendil's had enough, right? I can't be the calm in the storm's eye anymore after this.
Mm-hmm. There are limits.
Yeah. The guy was like, look, if this is destroyed, then these souls, are lost, right? Okay. That's okay. Whatever mythology they've developed is fine. No problem there. But the importance, the significance of that, and then for him to intentionally, coldly, and cruelly just destroy it is so over the top, and Elendil's had enough. Valandil is the one who holds him back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Captain, you're going to be okay. Man. Oh. But then we get the attack of Valandil on Kemen. It's over at that point, right? Valandil's, can we talk about this? I'm not sure I can. For me, the grief is still too near. I'm going to throw an homage, I remember, because I'm live writing my notes. Like, I don't write the notes afterwards. I'm writing them as I go. So I'm like, he's about to sign his own death warrant by attacking Kemen. I can't cheer hard enough for this guy because I love Valandil and I hate Kemen, and this is going to be a great fight. And then you think he's going to be drowned, right? That moment where he's got his head under the water and he's at such a disadvantage, and you're thinking, well, this is kind of creepy, I mean, this is bad. It's sort of, you've got this connection with Isildur and the river, and it's more of an homage to the movie death of Isildur than the book death. But
although I will say, I'm not sure how a trained soldier like Valandil gets flipped over and his head shoved under the water by creepy little Kemen.
Yeah, seriously. It's not like Kemen's been training. Mm-hmm. And we do see that, because eventually Valandil fully flips the script, right? I mean, he is able to not only get up and get out of that grasp, but when Kemen decides, that's it, I'm going to get my sword, even then, it's still no use. Valandil's like, what sword? Yeah. I mean, he smashes his arm, and I got to say, my collarbone felt much sympathy for that.
Oh, I bet.
When I heard that crunch, and it was such good sound design on that crunch, I was like,
they do a good job of the bone crunches in this show.
That was really good bone crunching.
Really,
and you're like, that is going to hurt. I mean, we've broken multiple bones in that joint now. That collarbone's gone. It's a fully separated joint. You might have even broken it near the top of the humerus. This is bad. He's going to take months to heal.
He's going to need a lot of physio.
He's going to need a ton. And we've got now Valandil with the sword at the throat of Kemen. I'm like, you got to do it. You got to do it. Because you're going to, even if you put the sword down right now, Kemen, or Valandil, I'm saying to him right now, if you put the sword down, you're still going to be executed.
Yes, that's what I thought was going to happen. He was going to be executed for this.
They're still going to arrest you. They're going to still throw you off the top of the Middle Tarma or whatever crazy death. They're going to throw you to the sea worm. You're going to die, so you might as well kill this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He listens to his captain. Elendil tells him to put the sword down. He's like,
is Elendil ever going to forgive himself for this one?
No. I don't think he will. You could see that when the inevitable happens. By inevitable, it still surprised me. I didn't think that this was going to be the way he goes down. Kemen and his cowardly
That's
attack
it.
from behind.
That's what I was thinking. You absolute arrant coward.
Yeah, ever the coward.
Ever the coward. It's both great and terrible, right? It's terrible in the
Yes.
sense that it took me by surprise. It gutted me, no pun intended. And it hurt so bad to see. And it was such a painful scene, but my goodness, they've arrived. Like, that scene shows this show's ability to carry a dramatic moment all the way through.
Yeah.
And the emotion of Valandil and Elendil.
And especially as
Valandil.
Elendil just called him son the moment before he was stabbed.
And holding him in his arms as he's dying. And I'm just weeping the whole time and
So he's not
screaming for justice for Valandil.
Yeah. He's not just lost his son, or at least in his mind, but his son's friends.
Yeah.
And he will have known Valandil since he was a boy, because that lot have all been friends since they were young boys. So, he will have known Valandil for a long time.
And he led him in battle in Middle-earth. And he's been on this, the journey on the ships with him. And my first thought was that there is literally no death that's going to provide, a balm for Kemen. Like, no matter what death he faces, it will not be enough.
So I have a question there. I think the universal response is people want Kemen to die. Like, people are going to be very happy when Kemen gets his one-uppance. How do we expand that to an entire people?
Oh.
We see that attitude spreading, don't we?
Yes.
They're giving us a good reason to want Kemen dead, but they need to expand that to us having a good reason to want all of Númenor dead.
Númenor wiped out.
I think that we're going to see some of the faithful being rounded up and executed. So I think that's going to start us feeling that.
But it can't just be Kemen and Aarion.
No. I'm talking about others, yes.
We've really got to see the entire island.
We're going to see the entirety of the people turn into the King's Men for the most part, because that is what happens in the books. I mean, the vast majority of people end up being on the King's Men's side, which is why they're able to kill so many of the faithful as human sacrifices to Melkor in the temple, which we will see. And we will see Númenor as, for the most part, aside from the faithful, be worthy of its destruction.
Yes.
And that's important.
And at last, this is what, as we mentioned before, this is what we were complaining about. When are they going to show us why Númenor has to sink? I think they're doing that.
Well, the bit we're still hoping they show that they haven't yet is what Númenor starts to do in Middle-earth.
Yes. And that's hinted at with what Kemen is saying to Pharazôn earlier in a previous scene.
I think we'll see that.
And we do need to see that too.
But I'm feeling good that we will. I'm feeling confident.
I think so too. I think that's how they're going to tie the capture of Sauron. I think it's going to be Pharazôn going over to Middle-earth, dominating Middle-earth, taking the slaves, burning the forests down or cutting the forest down, doing all this, and then eventually having to fight Sauron and then taking it back.
It's interesting from a timeline point of view. I feel like after this episode, like prior to this episode, I may have been concerned that we were falling behind. But after this episode, I'm feeling like we've actually got a decent amount of room now to build that part of the plot line, right? We could spend the whole third season.
We're getting there.
On the Númenor domination of Middle-earth.
We could, absolutely. And here's a thought I'd like to throw in. See what you think of this. All right. Númenor starts its colonial expansion, starts taking what it wants, including slaves.
Yeah.
Ends up in Pelargir. And starts killing and burning there. And the new Lord of Pelargir is offered a ring to help him to prevent this from happening.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Remind me who the Lord of Pelargir is?
Yeah, I still don't get why Arondir has the authority to name Theo as the Lord of Pelargir. It felt very tongue-in-cheek to me. But
hand-waving that away.
Yeah, that's a very strong possibility. I actually, I said no death will be sufficient for Kemen. And I think what I actually said was really a phrase with two meanings. There is the meaning one, the obvious meaning on its face is that there is no death that will satisfy me because Kemen is a terrible, terrible individual and should die the most miserable death imaginable.
Yes.
But the words that I used were no death will be sufficient for Kemen reflect the fact that I think he's going to become a ring wraith and he will just be stretched for all eternity. So in other words,
no death what is sufficient will
be sufficient for Kemen. And that is sufficient. Seeing him in misery for, the rest all the way through the end of the third age.
Oh dear, what a shame. Never mind, moving on.
Exactly. Oh no. Anyway.
Yeah. Ooh, squirrel.
So Elendil is arrested to end that storyline, and we know that things are only going to get worse for him and for the faithful. And like you said, that's great because we need to see the reason why Númenor has to fall.
Yep, I'm so happy. Honestly, I'm so much happier after this episode.
I suspect, given we know that there's a multi-episode battle coming up, that the focus for the rest of the season will probably be on Eregion rather than Númenor. I don't know if we're gonna see much more Númenor.
3-episode battle. There's only 3 episodes left,
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to get much Númenor.
Well, yeah.
No. And speaking of Eregion and that upcoming battle, we'll get back to that right after the break. All right, folks, we only have a couple of very short storylines to talk about now. I mean, trust me, these next 2 will be half as long as any of the previous 3. The first line is the Lindon line that includes Elrond. We did get that really great scene that you mentioned, James, earlier, where we have the overlay of Celebrimbor's letter while Gil-galad's opening it, claiming the forge has been shut down and all of that. But of course, to Gil-galad's advisor, and I wasn't sure what her name was, but I think, James, you said that in the subtitles, she's the commander of the South.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she is the corresponding rank of Galadriel, right? Because Galadriel's the commander of the Northern armies. Yeah. Okay. All right. So according to her, and maybe there's a little rivalry there because they are both commanders of different armies, this proves that Galadriel was wrong, and therefore we need to get our ships going now. We need our armada to go to Mordor. So we're going to come up the Anduin and attack Mordor from the sea. But in the meantime, as she's explaining this, Gil-galad gets his visions from the ring. I didn't know what to make of any of that. I didn't even put any notes because it was
were weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
It wasn't clear to me.
No, just unclear for sure. A mishmash of imagery. So
I don't even know what he means when he says that he believes Sauron is behind all of this.
Yeah, what does he mean by all of this?
Yes,
I mean,
all
yes.
of what? Exactly.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what's going on with Celebrimbor or anything. He doesn't know what's going on with the dwarves. So all of what?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is a very good point. All of this is such a broad phrase. I didn't get what he meant, but
I'm not sure what he's disagreeing with as well. Like,
yeah. Like, no, we're not, because Sauron's behind all of this.
So he agrees with Galadriel now. Is that what? There's too many negatives.
It wasn't clear, was it?
No. Because that comes after Elrond arrives, right? Elrond's running through the forest. He's doing his little Tom Cruise.
Flipping his cloak off his shoulders.
Too much. Yep.
Yeah.
It's weighing me down. I've got to get rid of the cloak.
Yes.
It might have looked a bit strange, but I'm here for Elrond throwing his cloak off as he runs.
His hair
was
perfect.
All day.
His hair was not moving as he was running. It was perfectly intact.
It was on point. Mm-hmm.
He can do that all day. I'm sure there will be nobody complaining.
No problem.
About that. So he, of course, bears the news. The orcs have sent a legion to Eregion. But that's when we get that line, like, oh, Sauron's behind all this. What do you mean, all this?
I'm confused as to whether Gil-galad is rejecting the commander of the South or rejecting what Elrond's just said, or saying they're both right.
It sounds like he's rejecting Elrond, because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, okay, even if Sauron's behind all this, it doesn't change Eregion's need for aid. I mean, if they're being attacked, even if Sauron is behind that, even if Sauron and Adar are allied, and we know they're not, you still need to come to Celebrimbor's help. You need to still come and help Eregion. Right. I know you think that the walls are enough and the rivers are enough, but I promise you, man, they're not.
Do you think his comment about the armies not being able to defeat both Adar and Sauron alone is setting something up? I was confused again by that line.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be the bringing in of the Númenorians.
Yeah. Well, yes, see, of course, if we're going back to what actually happened in the timeline, it's around now. Yeah. He was writing to Aldarion's dad saying, please, can you send Aldarion? Exactly. But of course, we've moved rather on from that.
That's the thing. We've changed the timeline, so I'm not 100% sure. But yes, the men of Númenor came to the rescue of the elves in the battle for Eregion. I mean, that is exactly what happened.
Kind of not going to be able to do that, are they, with this?
I know. I'm a little concerned the timeline. Like, how are they going to get ships over here in that kind of time? They're not.
Right. That comes back to my tweet from 2.5 years ago when I was talking about each season being Pharazôn playing a different former king.
Yes, a different king.
He's playing Minister at some point.
Yep. And Autonomir at another.
He's Autonomir another time,
Yeah. I think that it is setting it up, but how can they get out of that? Because they don't have the time to get the elf army there in a timely fashion, let alone to get a message to Númenor. And Númenor is not going to help you right now. I mean, remember the whole point.
The whole point is they don't like the elves.
Right.
Is they don't like the elves and they don't want war anymore. I mean, Pharazôn is coming to power as a populist, protecting the people against this warmongering king who's going to send their sons off to die. So the last thing he's going to do is help them right now.
It's too late for Pharazôn to play the role of Minister.
Yes, it is. That's a very good
that
point.
ship has sailed.
That ship has sailed.
Oh, badum-tsh.
It's funny we both went there at
Great
the same time.
Alike. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, that was good stuff. One final line, and it's such a short thing to talk about, is Adar and the orcs, right? At the very end of the episode, we see the orc army marching. It's a really good shot. I love that wide shot of the entire force coming over that ridge, arriving out of the forest. Where are they? Where are they? Oh, now we see where they are. The camera pans, and we see them looking at Eregion across the river. This is terrifying. Now, in the meantime, we see a cart being pulled by the orcs. Presumably, this is in whatever camp they set up there. This is not in Mordor, because it wouldn't make any sense for Adar to go back to Mordor with Galadriel. So he's got to be setting her up here. It's carrying the prisoner Galadriel, as we all know is happening, right? There's a cart, and we can't see who or what is in the cart. Everybody knows that's Galadriel. What do you think about Glug there, about ready to slice her neck when Adar steps in? Come on, he's got to know better. He's just playing. He's threatening her.
You'd like to think so. Yeah. I mean, that would be stupid, because there's no reason for Adar to have ordered that she be brought all the way there in a cart as a prisoner, and then
just to have Glug kill her.
Yeah.
No. And as we've seen before, Glug's clearly a very trusted servant of Adar. I mean, he's very close to him. As we saw last episode, he's the one who was like, can't we just leave Sauron as being dead? And, he's talking to him like he's his son. So Galadriel turns the tables and threatens Adar. And once again, I've noticed this the whole time. Adar is never riled, is he?
Mm-hmm.
He never seems to get mad, even when people are having to be killed in his presence, even when Sauron / Halbrand is talking to him. He never raises his voice. He's just terrifyingly in control. And this felt very much like that. Like, I brought you here for a reason, common enemy. And of course, obviously that enemy is Sauron. And we know we're going to see something here. So I guess that leads to the question, how is she going to assist when she's only one person? She's separated from all the other elves. Is she going to find herself on the opposite side of the line from Elrond? What? Yeah.
Yeah. This is a little messy, this last bit.
Messy.
Because, of course, the Siege of Eregion is not about an alternate leader of the orcs attacking because they want to get at Sauron. The Siege of Eregion is about, the forces of the orcs and Sauron
trying to get
attacking Eregion because it's Eregion.
Right, to get the rings.
Right. They want the rings to get the 16, to get the 19, right? Because he wants all of them.
So, I mean, if Adar is wanting to only attack Sauron, how is that going to work? And why bring everybody all the way to Eregion? And this bit at the end is a little messy, and I'm not sure quite where they're going with it, because we know there's going to be a Siege of Eregion, which is going to finish off the rest of this season, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure where they're going with that last bit.
In fact, it's not just this scene. You bring up a really good point. It hadn't occurred to me, which is the whole way they're setting up the Siege of Eregion is completely unlike the books.
Yeah, totally different.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, according to canon, it's completely understandable because Sauron's trying to get hold of the rings, right? So it all makes sense. It does.
Can't see how they can do that given how it's been set up now.
No, that doesn't make any sense here.
It'll be interesting to see if maybe the help that Gil-galad talked about is not the men of Númenor, but the dwarves. Because, of course, the dwarves canonically do help the elves in the battle against Sauron.
And we have actually seen in a trailer that scene where Durin Jr. says, "Fight with our friends."
Yeah. So that's probably what we're going to see.
Good luck with getting Durin Sr. to do that without being handsomely paid.
He's got to get half of the money. As long as he gets half of the spoils of Eregion, he's okay.
Half the spoils of Eregion. I want half the city.
Ring tribute tax.
Seriously, ring tribute. My goodness. I will say this about this episode, you two. It has been really good to let it breathe, right? You and I, the three of us have been able to talk now for almost as long as we talked about 2 episodes last week.
Yes.
Or 2 episodes right before that. It's been nice to really dive a little bit deeper because we're no longer rushed having to cover 2 episodes in one. And I'm really liking that pace. Of course, we've only got 3 to go. So, because that does conclude another episode of the Rings of Power wrap-up. But please join us again next week right after episode 6 drops.
Thanks to the team that helps us get this show out there every week. Our editor, Jordan Reynolds, Barlim and Becca Davis, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, and our website guru, Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please check it out at ringswrapup.com. We've got show notes, our online storefront, and one of these days, maybe a few outtakes.
I don't know what you're talking about, James. There are no outtakes here. We are sheer perfection the whole way through.
That's right. Outside Valinor, in Valinor, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yes, there is perfection outside Valinor, and it's right here in the Rings of Power wrap-up.
I love that.
Anyway, you'll also want to take a look at our library page. This show may be about the Amazon adaptation, but the 3 of us are first and foremost fans of the books. So we provided links for you to get all the lore. And we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
Indeed. And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your justice for Valandil
yes.
to barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking us your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us. Just make sure you tell us that it's actually for Rings of Power wrap-up and not for the PPP.
And also be sure to send the question to Barliman too. Now, we've been able to rely on Barliman lately, but we do get a lot of mail. So we'll get to you when we can. Your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Despite it being as long as it has been and allowing it to breathe as much as it did, this has still been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.